Welcome to Dear Romance Writer, your home for the questionable advice for the bewildered and befuddled, random pop culture recommendations, and conversations about you feelings. Be sure to send in your letters seeking advice on our anonymous form at dearromancewriter.com.
Dear Romance Writer is part of the Frolic Podcast Network, a podcast community of everything romance and romance related. If you're into romance fiction of any flavor, the Frolic Podcast Network includes shows that feature book club style discussions, author interviews, comedy, critique, and fantastic conversations as well.
It includes some of the most innovative, interesting, and entertaining podcasts, including Kinda Dating, Crappy Friends, My Imaginary Friends, Smart Podcast Trashy Books, and Jeff and Will's Big Gay Fiction Podcast. What does this mean for you, the listener? More shows to enjoy and more opportunities for us to introduce you to great episodes and new podcasts you'll love. Find new shows to add to your podcast subscriptions at frolic.media/podcasts. Now on to this week's show.
Hey, everybody. This week, I am so excited. We all are, but I'm super excited because I get to fangirl a little bit because we have the amazingly talented and sweet and funny Talia Hibbert with us. If you guys haven't read her, you are missing out. Go pick up every book she's ever written and enjoy yourself. But Talia, please tell us tell our listeners where they can find you and all about you and your life story, anything you want to share.
Thank you. Well, you can find me online. I have a website, taliahibbert.com. I had to think about that for a second there, but yes. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Talia Hibbert as well. And yeah, I like to write books about people kissing and having feelings. And the last one I released was called The Roommate Risk, and it's about best friends who are secretly in love, and one of them knows it and one of them doesn't, and then they make a sex pact.
I love a
That's
sex
like
pact.
my favorite scenario.
Sorry, as romance readers, we get such specific trope likes, and when somebody hits that button, you're like, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. Anyway,
Also,
welcome.
I never know when I'm supposed to stop talking, so expect
great.
quick pauses.
Right, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I usually wait for
you're
the glassy-eyed stare, and then I go, okay, I've said too much.
I said too much. Wonderful. Well, we love having you here. We're super excited. And let's see, just in case anybody didn't pick up real quick, because we're very bad about doing this, we should probably do a little intro. I'm Avery Flynn, because our poor podcast listeners can't see our name.
Oh,
so
right,
I'm Avery Flynn.
I'm
Roan Parrish.
That's Roan Parrish. I'm Zeal Axelrod. And again,
And our guest today.
Yes, I'm Talia Hibbert, the guest.
The guest. In the role of the guest today.
Yes, we'll be having. All right, so let's see. You know what? We didn't divide this up beforehand on who's going to do the letter and who's going to do the "What Would You Do" segment. And let me just tell y'all, we have a really fun "What Would You Do" for this week. So you're going to want to stay. Trust. And this is a great letter. Zio, do you want to go ahead and take the letter?
Sure, no
Yay.
problem.
We'll make her do all the work today. I mean,
this letter is from Elle. Elle, thank you so much for writing in. We love getting letters. We love helping you guys with our questionable advice, so we appreciate it. Her letter says, "Hi there. So I'm asexual, which makes it nearly impossible to find a romantic partner. I'm biromantic, so I'm open to pretty much anyone. Yet most people want a sexual relationship, and I can't really blame them for that. Even in the past, I've told potential partners up front about my being ace, and they've said it was fine. Then the further we get into the relationship, the bigger of a problem it comes, until we end up breaking up. My only options seem to be other aces, but I have yet to meet one I'm compatible with. I've pretty much accepted I'll be alone for the rest of my life. I'm already in my 30s, but sometimes I just break down thinking about that. Oh, Elle. I'm a hopeless romantic, and my one saving grace has been writing novels where the MC and his LI fall in love and have an HEA. Let's break those acronyms down really quickly.
Yeah.
Elle writes male romance novels where the main character and his love interest fall in love and have a happily ever after. For those of you who the 2% of you who probably don't read romance that listen to us. I basically live vicariously through my characters, but I can't spend all day, every day in my made-up world. Any advice to make loneliness a bit easier on this disaster asexual? I'd really appreciate anything you have to say, as I love hearing all sorts of different perspectives. Thanks so much for your help. L. Oh, L. I want to hug everybody who writes to
Yeah,
us.
I know.
They're all so lovely.
It's always our first instinct.
Yeah.
Well, and this didn't quite go where I was expecting, because at first I thought the question was going to be, can you give me some advice on where to meet people, how to negotiate, talking about being ace with folks who are arisexual. And then where it actually went was, how can I deal with being lonely? And I'm torn between talking, like answering the question that's actually asked, and feeling a bit like maybe the question that they actually want an answer to is, how do I meet people and find people so that I won't feel so lonely? So, I mean, because I'm me, I will just obviously want to talk about both of them.
Yeah, both.
Yeah,
both
yeah,
is always
both.
better.
Like the GIF, both. Why not both?
Yeah.
So start us off. What would you answer to the question she asked, which is about dealing with the loneliness? Which I think honestly you can have no matter. This is not an asexual specific question at all. So
it's not even being a single issue at all. This is like an issue that a lot of people deal with, whether they're in a relationship or not, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's true. And I think that feeling lonely when you're not in a relationship is way better than feeling lonely when you are in a relationship.
Yes.
I feel like there's no better feeling than being surrounded by people who you're supposed to feel connected to and missing that. So to start off, you really are on like the good side of the fence on that one.
Yeah, you're on the happy side of loneliness.
Yeah, that's a real silver lining, straight up.
Yeah,
seriously.
I know, that was an uncommonly Pollyanna-ish take. I feel like, well, I have so much to say about the loneliness thing, and then I'll kick it over to y'all. But I was single for like 12 years or something, 11 years, a really long time. Mostly by choice, but then like it's hard to know where choice edges into inertia, I think. So it doesn't really matter. The point is that definitely I was lonely sometimes, but also I loved being alone, and I love being by myself in general. And so I guess I can just say a few things about like what make me be alone without feeling lonely. I think one thing is to always look at it as being free instead of being alone. I think that there's this feeling of possibility when you can do anything you want that is so like carbonated and fizzy and exciting. And to wake up on a Saturday morning and say like, I could do anything. I could drive 6 hours to a beach and then like take a picture and drive home. I could lay out every single object I have in my house and decide to get rid of half of it. I could go down to the basement and lie on the cement floor and listen to music in this like weird mermaid echo chamber, and no one will ever know.
That's like, very specific.
Yeah, that was oddly specific.
You know,
I'm thinking, you know, you can do the cookie dough straight from the tube and no one will yell at you, you know, and she's got mermaids in her basement.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I feel like that's not that's a mental shift. That's deciding to think certain thoughts about your life, and instead of thinking the thought, this would be better with someone else, thinking the thought, it's so amazing that I am in complete control of my choices, my decisions, my time, and I get to do whatever I want, and I get to feel however I want about it. So I think that like step number one is recasting loneliness as freedom, which I know there's a lot of toxic positivity that goes around about like, just think happy thoughts and your whole life will change. Right. And it's the just there that I have a problem with. Like, it's not that easy to think happy thoughts, but I do feel more and more that thoughts, like your thoughts and feelings about yourself, are things that you have a fair amount of control over if you just believe that you do.
Well, and to play off of that, I mean, and we're what Elle says is, she says, make loneliness a bit bit easier on this disaster asexual. And that hurts my heart because you are not a disaster. So talk better about our letter writer friends. All right, Elle? So, but that sort of falls into that. It's in trying to take your perspective and sort of seek out that silver lining if at all possible. And it's not always there. You know, as far as, you know, toxic positivity, I agree with you there. Optimism and positivity have their place, and unfortunately it's not always. But yeah, so I think recasting that and building off of seeing the positive side of the situation can help. I think there's also a question of, and this goes to, I'm sure, where Roan really wants to go, which is how are you outside of a romantic relationship, you know, a love relationship? Are you lonely outside of that? Or are you expecting that relationship with that one person or multiple people or whoever it may be? Is that going to be, are you looking at that as the automatic cure for your loneliness, which it may not be? You know, that's so much pressure to put on you and what you're expecting in a relationship, as well as the person or people who are part of that relationship. So I would also kind of, I would want to know that. And if there is not a lot going on in your life outside of writing, which, believe me, I think everybody here understands how we can get sucked into that. And it seems like everything becomes work related, which is so dangerous. But to be able to see what kind of relationships do you have with people, not romantic relationships, but what are you having with folks that help to ease that loneliness and that feeling that you've got.
Yeah, it reminds me a little too of Roan's advice that she gave a while back about dating yourself.
Yes,
you know,
I
treating
love that.
yourself. That was so awesome, and I think that might apply to Elle too, because it feels like she's, like you said, Avery, waiting for that person to do things with or whatever, and do those things with your, you know, do those things for yourself with yourself. Go to the beach, you know, drive to the beach and take a picture or whatever. But again, yeah, I do agree, Avery, the connections that Elle might have outside of whatever romantic relationship with friends or family, those should be helping you not feel so lonely. So if you have those connections, why are you still feeling this way? Like, that's something that you might want to examine. But yeah, I agree.
Also, yeah, I think the problem is as well that it's possible to have kind of friends but not have really intimate friendships.
Have acquaintance friendships more than anything.
Yeah. So like, I don't know, they might be feeling kind of like they have these relationships that are great and positive, but there's just a level of intimacy they're not reaching, and they think, you know, the only way I can get that is with a romantic relationship. But maybe they're exhausted right now by how difficult it's been, so it's kind of like, where do they go from here? But I think you can definitely have really deeply intimate platonic relationships. I think they're just as hard to find, if not harder usually, than romantic relationships. But if romantic relationships have been so difficult to find, then maybe that is another path to take.
Yeah.
I think so too. I was, it's funny, my girlfriend Timmy and I were talking last night about the idea of soulmates and whether we believe in soulmates. And we both agreed that we do not, and actually that we hate the idea of soulmates and find it like not only not romantic, but horribly depressing and demoralizing and like truncating to the idea of a soul in general. But, you know, the idea of soulmates, we were like, where does it come from again? Oh, it's, you know, the Greek idea of like, we originally had 4 arms, 4 legs, and then we were like split in half. And then like we spend our lives searching for the other half of what makes us whole, which is like literally the worst thing I can imagine.
About, you are like, half a person,
right?
Like, until you find that person, you're not whole.
You're half a person. You need to spend your entire life chasing after some unrecognizable to you other human being who you won't be whole until you acquire them. It's like, not only is it depressing, it's like, it seems so acquisitive and capitalist to me. Like, just tread water until you find a person that you can like stick back on you, and then maybe you'll have some hope of being happy. Which I know that's not what Elle is saying, but we were talking about it, and I think the idea of, like, I think that we culturally have absorbed a little bit of that idea of the soulmate as the as the complementary part of you, like that you can do all these things and have all these experiences, but that they will be better and more complete if someone else is there to witness you witnessing them. And there's something that I think is really, I don't know, that feeling of like something isn't real unless you share it with someone, really
the tree falls in the forest. Yeah.
Yeah, and it bleeds into the kind of like, is anything real if you don't like take a picture of it and show it on social media and get people's opinions about it? It devalues your internal sense of what is important and what is valuable to you. And I think that like there is just a kind of wisdom that can come from not depending on external validation, because then if you're there, you get to say like it's actually kind of life-changing to be like, I can do whatever I want right now. So what is it that I actually want? And half the time I think people don't know.
Mm.
And I think that this is like one of the things that I found from being single for a long time and like living alone, is that even though I'm in a relationship now, I still always know what I want to do or what I want in that moment. And I'm willing to compromise or like those things. But I don't know. I have friends who are like are constantly in relationships, and I feel like sometimes when you say what do you want to do, they're like, I don't know, I don't care, and which is fine. But I always wonder like, how do you not know what you want to do? And I think sometimes that comes from like seeking always an external check on your wants and desires. And so I think that one thing that's so valuable about being alone is like being your own check and having to dig deep and be like, no, but do I actually want to do that, or do I just think I'm supposed to want to do that? And anyway, it's being alone is great. This is my love letter to being alone. Anyway,
I mean, there are some people
like
who
my girlfriend
need...
is the best, and I adore her. And Timmy, if you're listening to this,
right, yeah, but I love you. But like, there are some people who do need that social aspect to enjoying the things that they love, and we talked about this before. Like, you find groups of people who enjoy the things that you enjoy, and you go enjoy them with them, and you guys can all fan out over whatever it is together, and then you get that part of the fulfillment of your social life. Because like Avery said, putting all of that on one person or two people, or however many people end up in a relationship with you, is a lot of pressure, on all of you. So
yeah, and also, I mean, if Elle is looking to ease the loneliness a little bit, and Elle is a writer, I think we as writers often fall into that trap of having everything be about work. I mentioned it earlier, but if you expound on that a little bit, if your friends are all work related, if your social stuff is all work related, if it all functions around that one thing, that also can really exasperate. You know what word?
Yeah.
Thank you. That sense of loneliness, if something is off in that one area, it's sort of the same pressures if you expect all of your needs to be met by a single partner or a multiple partners. It's a lot to put on. So my biggest advice to Elle right now, I wish I could help you, give you a really simple answer on where to go find someone who is going to romantically fit your needs. I'm good. I'm not that good. So I can't. But what I really would advise is to try and add in some variety within your life. And as we start to open up again, with the vaccine, and the ability to get out is a little bit easier now than it was before. For some folks, hopefully. So to be able to add in some variety of where you're hanging out, who you're engaging with, trying to open up both with, people who've been in your life for a while that maybe you haven't been as engaged with, and new folks, whether it's, joining clubs or volunteering, or, you know, just spending the day hiking, you know, this park that you enjoy walking through, you know, whatever it may be. Adding in that variety does really helps open up your chances
Yeah.
of being able to meet and engage with folks that you can build stronger relationships with, and therefore not be as lonely. From a writer perspective, think of it as you're not going to send the query on that book. If you're going to traditionally publish, you're not going to send that query just to one publisher. You know, you're going to blanket, because that's going to increase your odds and increase your chances. Do the same thing with your hopes of being able to build some platonic and romantic relationships.
Yeah, just expand your social circle.
Yeah.
If you're not finding success in the areas that you want to find success with the people that you're around the most, you know, I mean, there's a group, there's the commercial for Facebook, which I'm not the biggest fan of Facebook, but they have this commercial about
Twitch.
There's a group for everything, and there's like, you know, mushroom picking group, and there's a antiquing group, and there's a, you know, paint your toenails group, whatever it is. You know, if you pop in one of those groups, or on Meetup or some other, you know, I don't know, whatever, you're wherever you live, sometimes they have like event calendars for different things that are happening in the park. Like, go to those things and just chill and hang out, and you never know who you're going to meet, and you never know if
and it can be scary to do that on your own. I mean,
yeah. Especially if you're like, a lot of writers are introverts, so like we're probably like terrifying Elle right now, like, go ahead and do this thing and meet all these people, and they're like, oh my God.
Baby steps.
Go on dates, right? Because you can date people and kind of be like, maybe this isn't going to work out, and maybe I don't want it. Like, maybe my goal is no longer to have that relationship, but you can still go on the dates, because dates are fun, and you meet people, and you usually get to eat. You can still date.
You might end up with a friend instead of a
lover.
I think that too, you said that you're bisexual. Am I remembering this?
Biromantic.
Biromantic. Yeah, sorry, my bad. Yeah, so I feel like if you're biromantic, that I will now wildly generalize, but I think that the like queer network of going on a date with a queer person and then having that translate into a friendship, if you're not compatible, is like approximately 1000% higher.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe you want to like focus a bit on other queer people to date for a little bit, because that'll be great if that works out romantically, but also if you're not vibing with each other, or if you start dating and then that ends up not working out, it's just really likely that you can sort of massage it into a friendship, and you already have that shared intimacy. And I think to circle back to Talia, what you said earlier about finding those like romantic relationships, I think there are friendships that are like prime territory for turning into more intimate relationships. And sometimes all it takes is like saying to someone, I think you're so awesome, and I love that we hang out once every 6 months, or we chat every however long, but I love when we hang out. Would you want to do it more often? And then if they say yes, then it's like you hang out a little bit more often, and then on those hangouts, instead of saying let's watch a movie, you can say like, cool, do you want to go for a walk, or do you want to bake something, or build a gingerbread house, or I find projects very helpful. Bake, all the things. Like, activities are so good because the pressure isn't totally on the conversation, which I always find so stressful to be, you're like staring at each other and you're the equivalent of each other's blank page, and you're like, what do you do for a living? No, because they're your friend. Anyway, do activities, and like eventually those relationships can really deepen, and you not only does that up your odds of that person being like, you're having a hard time meeting someone. Yeah, I actually have a couple friends who are also having a hard time meeting people, and then like boom, matchmaker style. Or if you end up with like two friends who you get more and more intimate with, I mean, friends to lovers, friends to romancers, it happens all the time. And
we write about it all the time. So it happens all the time.
Yeah. So you never know.
Yeah. I wish I knew where Elle lived. No, I was saying, I wish I
know.
knew where Elle lived, because sometimes when you live in a small town, there's not a lot of options. So if you live in a small town where there's not a lot of like physical options, the internet is your friend. And if you live in a city, explore the options of the city, because I live in Philly, and there's so many public events and so many public groups and stuff to join. So yeah, just expand a little bit, expand your circle.
And one last thing I would say, please do not feel alone in the fact that you get lost in your characters in your made up world. You're not alone in that.
That's totally normal. You can absolutely live there forever.
Oh. Yeah, that was the part where
judge.
she was like, I can't spend 24 hours a day there. And I was like, can't you?
Can you? Why not?
Can you not?
Why is there a Jabberwocky? What is going on in that world? Why can't you go back? Oh, well, Elle, please let
Avery,
us know.
I know you made.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say you made this like lovely segue that I will now ruin, because I actually do have another question, which is like that part where she said she's a disaster ace. I'm curious about that, because I wonder, like, I know that's just internet speak, and so maybe it's just a thing that has been glommed, but I'm curious, like, what she thinks is disastrous, and is it just not succeeding so far in relationships, or is there a deeper story there where it doesn't seem like you have many hangups about being ace, which is awesome, and I'm so glad, but there is some language that you're using about yourself, and about
humor,
a little self-deprecating, and like the way you're talking about the pattern of what's happening in your relationships, that I just would like pay attention to and ask yourself, do I think that I'm a disaster for X, Y, and Z reasons, which are totally understandable, or do I think that like it is my aceness that makes me disastrous and makes me the thing that is ruining relationships? And I hope that's not what you feel like, but if you do, I think that's just some work that you might want to do. And because that feeling where like if you attribute the failure of relationships over and over again to one quality, and that quality is one of your qualities, it's just like a story that gets deeply embedded and hard to let go of. And as a writer, I'm sure you understand the power that like telling the same story over and over can have. So if that is how you feel, if that's like buried a little bit and you think that, then maybe just do some work on changing that thought.
Because it's it's totally fine to be ace, and it's fine to not want to have, not want to be a part of those relationships. You say that these people are ending the relationships because they want to have a sexual relationship, and you can't blame them. But also, aren't you ending the relationship because you don't want to do that, and they can't blame you? You're all equally within your right to say this is not compatible.
Yeah.
It's a little concerning that keeps finding people who say they're cool with it and then they're not.
Yeah, that's
not on you, Elle, at all. That's not on you.
And I think that's also, that comes down to one of the favorite things that I learned a few years ago from Helen K. Diamond, which was the difference between opinion and behavior. And to me, that situation could be a difference between opinion and behavior, where I would like to be an ally, I would like to be supportive. Oh no, in theory, this doesn't form an issue at all. And then when you get into it and the behavior part really factors in, that's when you're there. Or it can, and it can be somebody who's fake. And it can also be just somebody who is thinking, oh yeah, I can totally do this. And then they realize that doesn't meet their needs, that they have unmet needs. And so, that's when you kind of roll into those types of issues as well. But I actually got from Elle that she is comfortable from this, just simply because she seems comfortable in those boundaries. She doesn't say anything about, well, this person, in order to continue the relationship, wanted me to cross over into something in an area where I'm not comfortable, or isn't meeting my needs. And it doesn't sound like that's happening. But yeah,
I'm really sorry that these people are either being I don't know, fake, but like are
Dishonest.
misunderstanding their own desires and
Yeah.
boundaries. I also think like this might be just ace incompetence where you know, like ace is a spectrum like anything else, and there are people who are not interested in sex but sometimes have it with partners consensually. Like there is just so much difference in desire, behavior, etc. And like that's contextual within certain relationships as well. And so maybe it would be useful to, I don't know what you're talking about when you say you're having that conversation with people, but depending on what their prior experiences with asexuality or ace partners is, it might be useful just to say like, you know, to be really clear about it, like that means I'm interested in only non-sexual relationships. And just make sure that that's like really out there if that's how you feel, and gauge what their response is in case they're just like not super aware of what you might mean by that.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
we threw a lot at you, Elle, so hopefully
No kidding.
something was useful.
Well, and I think also, you know, not just Elle, but if you're looking at it from any relationship perspective, you know, what we go into sometimes isn't always like our true selves are not coming to the forefront each time, and the people we're with, their true selves are not always. So it's that sort of meeting of things and figuring out, are we truly compatible, or is this something, you know, that's a no-go? So absolutely. But now for something completely different, I'm going to drag us away from Mal, because I have been waiting days for this. Roan, since you put this in our group chat and brought this up, I think you should have to read the letter.
That seems very fair. Okay.
All right. So this is our So What Would You Do segment. And this was pulled from Reddit. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. My 36M girlfriend, 26F, makes her vagina talk to me and will not stop. She's amazing. Cute.
I love this woman.
She's amazing. Sorry, first I was like, which is amazing? Which she we're talking about?
I think it goes either way, actually, given the next sentence.
Yeah.
Amazing. Cute, funny, emotionally self-aware, great communication skills, everything I've ever wanted. She is also quirky and dorky, which is new for me, but I enjoy it. After a lifetime of dating bad bitches, I will now forever endorse dating dorks. Except this one thing.
Dun, dun, dun.
She thinks it's incredibly funny to manipulate her vagina and provide a voice for it.
And she's
I'll
right,
be just
that is
minding
funny.
my own business.
It is hysterical.
I'll be just minding my own business, playing video games or working on my laptop or whatever, and then boom. Hey, handsome, how was your day? Are you hungry? I bought Cheez-Its. There she is, dress hiked up, no panties, both hands gripping her vulva a foot from my head and making her lips talk to me in this horrible, high-pitched Grover-esque Muppet voice. Oh, excuse me. Hey, handsome, how was your day? Are you hungry? I bought Cheez-Its. I don't know how Grover sounds like.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
So you know what? I find this just beyond hysterical on so many ends, on so many levels for this. And you know, I also am married to a man though who does this with his stomach to horrify our children. So I should tell him. Yeah, he's like, hello, how are you? And the children all scream and run away. So that's just part of the fun. So totally something different from this.
Like I can understand it happening once in a moment.
Oh, yeah.
But for it to just keep happening, it's like a bit. It's like a comic bit that just keeps recurring. I'm like,
does she never wear underwear specifically so she can always make the vagina talk?
Or does she sit there and she's in the kitchen and she's like, oh my God, lady's got something to talk about. She gets them up. I want to know. I have so many questions. Also, I'm putting this in a book. Can
you imagine like just working and then like somebody's foot comes up by your head and then like this, yeah.
Yeah. So I think on a serious side of things, I would wonder if this is actually, I mean, beyond just dork things. If this is a way to perhaps deal with being uncomfortable about something. So it's a way to distract, obviously, from a conversation. So if he's doing other stuff and maybe she feels ignored, this could be like her non-confrontational way of doing it. There are
confrontational.
Hey, these are never confrontational. No. But no, but sort of along the lines of when you are trying to have a serious discussion with somebody and they make a joke, or they just quote movies back to you, or it's that. Yeah, there's a whole level of folks that this is how they deal with any type of uncomfortable feeling. It's a defense mechanism. So I wonder, on a serious note, if one, this is some kind of weird defense mechanism. Two, I wonder, because he's 36 and she's 26, if this is a weird age thing. Maybe she's just super.
I'm 25 and I have never made my vagina talk. I will go on record. I will swear on the holy
You
God.
still have a year. You still have a year.
It's that year between 25 and 26.
It turns you into a vagina talker. So I wonder if there is sort of a, maybe she's playing into the age difference a little bit there. I don't know. Maybe she's just super crazily immature. Because if it was the other way around, yeah, but I mean, if it was the other way around and it's all of a sudden like you're sitting there working and then all of a sudden somebody comes in and slaps their dick out and starts talking to you, that would be an issue for me. I mean, this is funny to me because it's not happening to me. If it was happening, it would be an issue, and I understand that. So those are kind of my questions, and then my third, I have a comment before I get to my third question, and my comment is I so appreciate the fact that he said that she was gripping her vulva and not her vagina, because I appreciate that you know the parts.
Good for
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, I picked it up.
Thank you. But my third question is, what in the world has he done to talk to her about this? This, I would think, Roan, I love you, but you want to talk about everything, in depth for a long period of time, But to me, even to me, I'm like, you got to sit down and talk about this shit.
I mean, she clearly has a personality type that he hasn't dealt with before. He calls her quirky. He calls her dorky. I'm picturing like a cosplayer, like somebody who's like really into really things that because he said he had bad bitches, whatever. I don't even want to know what that means. She's not a bad bitch. She's a quirky, funny, cute, emotionally
like
self-aware, manic pixie.
dream.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
Manic pixie dream girl. So like, I don't know. Like I think you might be onto something there, Avery. There's some disconnect. He's saying she has great communication skills, which means they talk about stuff a lot. So there's some disconnect there that they're not connecting on, and she is maybe using this as a way to like break the ice or get his attention or something. There's something else going on here other than just her thinking it's funny to talk to him with her vagina, because he clearly is uncomfortable with it, and I'm pretty sure she's aware of that if she's that self-aware.
But what is he saying when she does this? How is he?
Yeah,
because
I would love to know, like, babe, could you
I don't want any Cheez-Its from the vagina.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm good without Grover's vagina.
I don't understand, because if someone did that to me, especially someone you're in a relationship with, right? So you're supposed to be able to say, hey, you're being a weirdo.
Yeah.
Isn't that what makes the relationship a
Yeah.
relationship?
Yeah.
So why has he not said, please stop moving your vagina at me?
Yeah, I don't really get this
Please
either.
stop moving your vagina at me. I like that.
Yeah, well, and I understand, like, people have different senses of humor, 100%. But if you're in a long-term relationship with someone, when they don't think something is funny.
Exactly.
I mean, I guess unless they're really faking it. Which is why I'm wondering if he, does he think that that it's, like, part of her personality and that he can't challenge it? To which I would say, sir, no one's vagina is part of their personality.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, so I feel like there's a really simple answer, which, Avery, say it with me, you already said it. Just
talk.
like just say, hey, I don't know if this is like a difference in senses of humor or whatever, but I want to think about your private parts, whatever, I don't know, genitals, however, whatever language you use. I want to think about your genitals in a way that's like sexy and affirming, and I want that to feel good for both of us. But humor is not sexy to me in that way. I love your personality, but like, can we keep the humor out of like the genital region? Because that's not super sexy to me. And see what she says. And if she's like, no, it's hilarious, then you're like, then you know it's a difference of opinion. And then it's just a request. Like, just because two people don't think the same thing is funny, like you are still allowed to say, I would really love it if you would stop. It makes me uncomfortable. It changes the way I think about you. And if she doesn't respect that, that's rude. Like that's a boundary that you can set.
That is
That's so
absolutely
reasonable. It's so reasonable. And she can do that to other people if she thinks it's hilarious and like really means to you. Or she can do it in the mirror or like make videos. I don't know, get on TikTok. I don't know what you're doing. But like that is it's so reasonable.
That's an OnlyFans thing. The talking vagina would be an OnlyFans thing.
Someone's gonna like it and think it's funny. I'm sure she's not alone. I personally would rather die, but that's fine. I also wonder, like, kind of along the lines of what you were saying, Avery, I wonder if she's like pretty uncomfortable sexually and feels like she needs to make a joke out of her like body and sex organs before someone else makes a joke or before before something else uncomfortable happens, and that it's an attempt to kind of like
to own the situation.
To own the situation, to have like to like, I feel like the time when people do something outrageous and funny is usually to draw attention to something that they're insecure about, and they want to own that thing before someone else can take ownership over it. And so maybe a conversation about like, how do you feel about your body? Like, what do you think about our sex life? Can we just talk about it a little bit? What's your sex life been like before with other partners? Those are really useful questions, because I think it could be like, this is not, I don't mean to speculate about this specific person, but like general questions that I would have if my partner ever did this to me is like, do you have some trauma around your vagina that makes you feel like the only way it can get attention is negative or as a joke that you tell? And that is the first question that I would ask, because I think that,
did someone make fun of your vagina? That's what I would be like.
And I agree with that, but I do wonder why this is happening outside of situations where they're naked together. Like if he's sitting at a desk working and all of a sudden there's a vagina in his face, there's something else going on there. You know, like it's just, if it's just coming out of the blue like that, there's definitely a conversation that needs to be had.
It is. Well, and that's why I wonder if it's like an attempt to desexualize the part of her that often is like thought of as being closest related to the act of sex between men and women. Like, and to me that, like, that says something about trauma, whether it's like physical, emotional. I mean, I know people who have been made fun of for their actual vaginas, like the color, the shape, the whatever. There's like, I think that there are like racial dynamics to that. I think that there are gender dynamics to that, class dynamics that have to do with like what you do with your pubic hair, how you clean yourself, like what your standard practice is. And it's something that doesn't get talked about a lot, I don't think, but like, I totally know people who have suffered like emotional trauma around that part of their body. And so I do wonder about that. And like, that's just a conversation that you should probably try to have. And if it's like trauma, then of course you want to be very sensitive respectful. Say, I am here to talk about that whenever you want. Don't like barrage her with questions and demand an accounting. But I think that like, although it seems like a funny awkward, uncomfortable thing, it definitely seems like it might signal something that's a little bit deeper, more uncomfortable, and something that like probably if you had that conversation would positively affect both this issue and like deepen the intimacy in your relationship in general. Because if there's stuff there that's been unpacked and it's coming out in this like rather absurdist way, then that to me is a conversation that has to be had.
I wonder what the comments, did he do an update? Do you know if he did an update?
Oh, I haven't looked.
Yeah, because it was just a picture, so I'm not sure.
So I'm actually encouraged that he he's not making fun of her. He's not
No,
genuinely
he's
looking
concerned.
for, he's concerned. He's genuinely
like,
looking
what
for
the
advice.
hell do I do here?
Yeah.
Well, and I think also though, I mean, you said it great, where you're talking about how this is like a situation to absurd levels. And, you know, there are a lot of ways in which people who are in a couple or bigger, you know, people who are in relationships, how there are boundaries that sometimes get crossed. And at first people aren't sure, well, is that really going to bother me? Or, you know what, that bothered me, but it happened that once, so I'm not going to worry about it so much. And like, for an example, you know, you might have somebody that is in a relationship with somebody else, and one of the people smacks the other one on the ass every time I pass them, right? And in some situations that may be okay. It's other situations that maybe not, you know, they may not like it. And, but it may be a situation where, you know what, he tapped me on the ass and I kind of liked it. I was okay with it, but not really so much. And then it keeps happening and it bothers and it bothers and it bothers. And you have to be able to come up to a person and say, hey, that thing you did, it was kind of funny the first time, or I kind of liked it the first time, or the first time was okay, but that has since changed. And I think that sometimes can be an uncomfortable conversation to have, but it needs to be had. And we talk about a lot about how relationships change, about how people change within relationships. And as I think as people become more comfortable with each other, they are more likely to be able to feel comfortable saying those types of things. And I think that is when somebody comes to you with that type of situation, you can't be defensive and be like, but we've always done it and you've always liked it and you thought it was hilarious. You know, you have to come at that with the perspective of, okay, somebody is coming to me in an emotionally vulnerable way, and I have to accept it in an emotionally vulnerable way. And that can be hard, but it can happen. So this is absurd, but I'm sure we all have situations in relationships where we've been in where somebody does something, or maybe they say the same stupid joke every time when it's past the salt, or, you know, whatever it may be, where you're like, this is the line and you went way over here. You know, it's just cumulative effect. So yeah.
And generally speaking, I think a great thing to keep in mind if you do have this conversation is like, make it about you and not about her. So instead of saying like, you do this thing that I hate, you can just say like, I love how funny like how much humor is in our relationship, but I don't find X, Y, or Z funny, attractive, blah, blah, blah. And so it doesn't have to be about shaming.
Yeah, it makes me uncomfortable. Just saying it makes me uncomfortable. Yeah.
Also, I just like, as a general rule, jokes are never funny more than once, are they?
Well, sometimes you have those inside running jokes, you know, like, and you're like, oh, that's
good.
Yeah, they can be good, but yeah.
That's true.
I had this friend who, like, every day for a year, whenever we saw him, we'd be like, we would pretend it was his birthday because he hated it. And I'm confident that it was funny every time.
Fair. I stand corrected.
Well, yeah. You guys, I'm never gonna listen to Grover the same again.
I know.
I'm glad my kids are too old for Grover, because although Super Grover. Here's my question: is it Super Grover or regular Grover? That's what I really want to know.
Super Grover.
Super Grover.
Super Grover. I think it's Super Grover. Yes. Do you not know Super Grover? Oh my God!
I don't have children. I don't know.
A little cat thing, and he's got a cape, and he's Super Grover.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Tali, do you know Grover? Who Grover is?
I know who Grover is. I was unaware of the existence of Super Grover.
All right, so I know what picture I'm going to go find and spam in our group chat after this. So yeah, you guys are all going to meet Super Grover. So welcome. Thank you so much for being with us. We loved having you so very much. Please tell folks again where they can find you, and
what's coming up for you.
All the good stuff. Tell us.
Or if you've developed any strange hobbies during the pandemic is a question that I'm very interested in.
Oh my God, yes.
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, I've had a great time, even discussing talking vaginas, which I did not think I was going to be able to cope with. People can find me on my website, taliahibbert.com, or at taliahibbert on Twitter and Instagram. And my number one pandemic hobby, I think, has been plants, which I used to be into, but then the pandemic happened and I was like, oh, I need more.
Bring the outside in.
Yes.
And part of my living room floor now is literally there's just plants all over the floor.
Wow.
So I feel like I have a problem.
I also developed this problem with plants a couple years ago, and like before the pandemic, so I have no excuse, and it's so real. Do you ever do, I don't know if this is like a word outside of social media, but prop lifting? Do you know this word?
Shoplifting? I don't know.
It's like shoplifting to propagate. It's not actual shoplifting. It's
Oh, where you take little succulent bits and stuff.
Yeah.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
It is my favorite thing to do and has been for years in the summer when there was tons of succulents.
Old lady, you've gotta translate for me. What is
So
this?
so do you know that succulents self-propagate, so that if you tear like a little leaf off a succulent, it will grow a new plant?
Okay, I
So
will take your word for it.
It's propagation. It's propagating a plant. So if you have like a little bloop that falls off your succulent, you can just leave it and it'll grow these adorable little pink or white whiskers, and then it will like bloop out a version of itself. Like it self-replicates. It's fucking amazing. Nature. I don't even understand it. It's
That
amazing.
is so cool.
But the like leaves fall off all the time, like in
Like
places
garden
that
centers and stuff.
sell plants. Yeah, like they bump each other, or like the plants are close together, or they just fall off, whatever. And if you wanted to, you could go to like any plant store or nursery and you can pick up the fallen succulent leaves and you can take them home and you can propagate them yourself and grow all new succulents.
What is the ethical question?
Well, I have a very strong
Unconfirmed.
feeling.
Well, I think they're just gonna get thrown away. So I
Yeah,
think
they
it's
do.
all
They
good.
get swept up and thrown
Yeah.
away.
They get so I believe very strongly that this is 100% an okay thing to do, and that those things would die otherwise, and you're rescuing them and turning them into something that is amazing and beautiful and helps our air and is great. So I feel not one ounce of guilt.
No,
about
that's amazing. That's, I think,
That.
is totally cool. Unlike the thing that this one woman does in my neighborhood, which is go flower shopping. And there's all this video of like her, she just walks around with a cart and she just scoops it up out of your planter or your flower block, like she's
Like she's not taking like a bloom here and a bloom there. She's taking
oh,
a
I like
whole
that plant. She just scoops the plant right out. Yeah, it was like an epidemic last summer or last year,
my
whatever. Everyone was
God.
like,
nature.
yeah.
You know what you need to get? An air horn and just hang out at your window. And when she comes by,
Well, she does it late at night. I mean, she does it, like overnight.
She's going out like under the
she's
cover
sneaking.
of darkness to steal plants.
oh my God, you guys, again, something that needs to be in a book. That's hilarious. That is hilarious.
Can you leave her a note on a rock that says, plants are the purest thing in our world and you are ruining my life? Like just write it on a rock, put it in the
I
flowers.
thought that's where Roan went with it. My thought was, yeah, get the rock and say you're next. Roan's so much nicer.
Yeah,
Someone did leave her
so
a
much
note like
nicer.
this is not,
Yeah.
I have to pay for these. These are not free.
No,
so horrible.
That's outrageous.
Yeah.
that is
Wow.
outrageous. See?
But she
And
must
yet
have an
again,
amazing
we
garden.
went. Yeah, no kidding. And yet again, we've gone someplace that we never expected to go. So, thank you for everyone who steals plants.
Yeah,
Going to
propagate.
hell. The prop lifting is cool though, but
Yeah,
don't
it
steal
is.
whole plants like
Yeah.
Theo's neighbor. That's
Dave,
bad.
Dave, don't steal.
Don't steal.
Save, don't steal.
Thank you so much, everybody. Go read Talia's
Yes,
books.
read everything.
I got so
You're fucking
paranoid about
amazing.
saying your name again because I always fuck it up. So thank you so much for coming. We loved having you.
Thank you. I had a great time, really. This is so much fun.
So this week's playlist obviously was heavily influenced by the second of our discussions. It is entitled The Vagina Chronicles, because how could I not? And it features songs like the Thong Song from Cisco, because why not?
Oh my
And
God.
Pink from Janelle Monáe with Grimes, which if you haven't seen that video, she's basically wearing a giant vagina costume and her dancers, and they're all doing like vaginal moves or something. I don't know how to describe it. But I've got Call Me from Blondie. I've got some Troye Sivan. So yeah, it's a fun playlist.
You're not doing WAP?
Well, yeah, of course, that's on there too.
Oh. I was gonna say, come on now.
Yeah, that's on there too. There's a couple of but yeah. So let me know what you think. The vinyls we used already. I really wanted to put that in there. And there's another song that I couldn't think of that I used She Bop. I used the vinyls on that one. So I had to. But WAP was a given. But the Thong Song I thought was fun because I just heard a Norwegian cover of that not too long ago, and
you put that on too.
Yeah, no kidding.
I couldn't find it on Spotify because some things are geo blocked.
Oh.
So if I can find like a YouTube link or something, I'll drop it on our YouTube video for it. Anyway, fun stuff.
Well, I just need everyone to know who is not watching that I have a cat in my lap right now. She's very cute. I was also trying to think of a recipe that would be appropriately vaginal, and I'm so sorry to announce that I came up short. Like all the things that I could think about were either insulting or complicated enough that I didn't have time this week to work out a recipe. So I'll just keep thinking about it. And when you least expect it, I'll drop something like super vaginal on you. But today's recipe is Avery's horrified by me.
I'm gonna drop some super vaginal on you.
You never know.
When you least expect it.
When you least expect it, my vagina will tell you a recipe. But anyway, today's recipe is a delicious banana bread recipe, because what do you want for breakfast in the summer? Fruit, but sometimes you want bread too. And this is breadfruit.
I love
not breadfruit, fruit bread.
Fruit bread.
Real
yeah,
thing.
Slightly different.
Anyway, it's from Deb Perlman, my fave at Smitten Kitchen, and I think she calls it like towering banana bread or something, which I find delightful because it's just so architectural. But it's really good. Banana bread, I think, is 99% mediocre. Like, you don't turn it down, but it's not great. You're just like, yeah, it's banana bread. This banana bread is great. You can add nuts to it or not as you like, but I think that the real key here is the sheer amount of banana so that it's like very moist. You finish it with a cinnamon sugar sprinkle on top. So when you bake it, it turns into this sort of like crispy crust, so that at the top you have a little crunch. I like to put so much cinnamon in mine that you think, well, gosh, Roan, that's 17 times too much cinnamon, but it's not. A little clove and nutmeg in there. You can do a little cayenne if you like a kick. Anyway, it's delicious. And as usual, it is something that I just like triple the vanilla and the spices in, but Deb Perlman, can't go wrong.
Banana bread is like my specialty. I make a lot of banana bread in different kinds. I have a coffee chocolate one. I have like a bourbon one. I do use a lot of bananas. The more banana, they always say like use 2 bananas. I'm like,
that's outrageous.
Yeah,
no. You use like 6 bananas.
And they'll like use 2 bananas and a pound of butter. I'm like, no, that's not how you make more. Yeah. So that sounds delicious.
Yeah, so good. Well, and I can't wait to try all of your variations on it.
Yes, I will have to make some.
Well, I think banana bread is kind of appropriate because, you know, bananas, male members. So there we go. So you just did a little opposite day.
There you go.
Our talking vagina. So for the recommendation side of things, I just this morning, because I've become the world's slowest reader, finished reading Neon Gods by Katee Robert. I absolutely fucking loved it.
So good.
I have always liked Katee's books. This book was even better than her normal stuff. It is a sexy contemporary retelling of Hades and Persephone, which I just got done doing like the whole like mythos and heroes audiobooks. And why can't I think of his name right now? You guys know who I'm talking about. Who wrote those? Hold on. Give me 1 second, because it's really good. So I will make that one of my recommendations.
Neon Gods, though, like Hades.
Stephen Fry.
Oh yeah,
Stephen Fry.
Right.
So he Yeah, I went through all of those. But so Neon Gods, Hades and Persephone, it's super sexy. It's also got so much heart in it. Her dialogue for Always is good. And I'm sorry, but she writes a fabulous, fabulous bad guy who's absolutely cinnamony roll on the inside, like nobody
Hades
else's
is-
business. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. I wasn't expecting him. I thought,
He's all soft.
yeah.
I'm
It's awesome. I loved it. So Neon God, Katie Robert. You can get it digital, print, and audio, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes, and this is just a reminder that all of our books that we recommend are on a bookshop list. If you go to my Roan Parish's page on Bookshop, we have all of the books we've recommended that you can order in paperback, and Bookshop lets you choose a local bookstore that you can donate a portion, or that like gets a portion of the money that you spend buying books, which is awesome.
Yay.
So they're all there.
Nice.
So what are you guys recommending this week?
I'm in this, I was just talking to you guys. I am in this sort of spiral where every show that I get into gets canceled. So like 3 shows that I've been really into lately have gotten canceled after like the first or second season. They canceled Debris, which is like a alien contact space debris thing. It's network television too, so I'm not that surprised about that one because it was a little bit complicated for them. But they also canceled Prodigal Son, which is like,
I like that.
I
love Prodigal Son, and I know there's a huge campaign to get it picked up by like Netflix or someone. I mean, they've got such a fantastic cast, and John Noble just joined the cast, so like, come on.
Cool.
But the one that I'm going to talk about this week is Jupiter's Legacy, which I didn't even watch until like a week ago because it came out, I think, in May on Netflix. It's based on a comic book series by Mark Miller and Frank Quitely.
It's got the one dude in it.
Josh Duhamel.
Thank you.
Who I'm sorry to say, I did not get the fascination with Josh Duhamel. He's in like all these different things, and I'm like, but Timothy Olyphant's right there. Like, why does he keep getting these roles?
He's like Timothy Olyphant light. Yes.
He is light. Yeah, but he really does come into his own in this role as the main hero, Sheldon. And it starts off a little bit slowly because you're like, okay, I watched The Boys, which is on Amazon, which is like a send up of superheroes. I'm expecting a little bit of that with this, and there is some of that, but this is almost like if The Incredibles was made into a live action drama, right? So you've got this like family of superheroes. There's all this tension between them. You have the one kid who's just a complete, screw up. She's like into drugs and she's a model and all this other stuff. And you have the one kid who wants to be dad, like one is trying so hard to impress the dad and stuff. And there's all this like political stuff and there's like, infighting and everything. But it's such a great premise, and they really went to a place I didn't expect. And then I find out that the whole thing got nixed after the first season, and it was partially because of the shutdown, but also there was like turnover, and Netflix didn't want to give it money, and all kinds of stuff was happening. So, but I think the first season, even though it ends on a bit of a cliffhanger, is worth watching because the story is really strong, the characterization is really strong, and it's not where you think it doesn't go where you think it's going to go. And I love anything that can take an old trope like that and sort of like turn it on its ear. I think it's worth watching. So give it a shot. Hopefully maybe somebody will pick it up again, or they'll do like a 2-hour movie or something, because it does deserve to be carried on, but it's worth watching the one season.
Cool. My recommendation for the day is the new Conjuring movie. Conjuring.
Yes, I want
to see that so bad. I still watched it.
Yeah,
I love that series so much.
Yeah, I think the series is really interesting. I do mix up the Conjuring and the Insidious movies because they're both James Wan and they both have Patrick Wilson, and I like them both. But okay, so the Conjuring series, if you don't know, is based on the real life exploits of this couple that for like their entire adult lives basically dedicated their lives to helping people who needed exorcisms, banishings, had cursed objects, etc. They were religious, so they were like affiliated with the church and would sometimes work on behalf of the church. But their like entire life's work was to try to help people with these like supernatural issues. Delightful. Okay, so the third in The Conjuring, the reason that I recommend it so specifically on this podcast is that I have had several conversations recently, and I know there have been conversations ongoing in Romancelandia that people were interested if you could have romance horror as a genre, like not romantic suspense, not horror that like has romantic characters and everyone dies, but like something that is simultaneously a horror and a romance. I asserted that I thought you absolutely can, but I didn't have any like examples off the top of my head. Then the other day I watched The Conjuring 3, which I think is called The Devil Made Me Do It.
Yeah.
It is 100% both horror and a romance. Not only one romance, but two romances in this movie. One is the couple who are doing the ghost hunting, but it's like very much about their relationship and about like their romance as it is tested by the situation, but also the couple where like one of them is the one that the devil is making them do stuff. They have their own romance, and both of them have HEAs. Both of them are developed throughout the course. I mean, they're both couples when it starts, but they're like their relationship is the hinge of the movies. And there's this kind of like resonance between the two couples where you can tell that the couple that's trying to help partly want to help because they see themselves reflected in this other couple. It's a really good movie. It is a horror movie, so if that's not your jam, it is like spooky. But it's so worth watching, I think, if you like horror. And even if you didn't see the other two Conjuring movies, I don't think that you have to appreciate this one. And I like submit it with all sincerity as 100% a hybrid horror romance. Highly recommend.
Awesome. I think that's one franchise that gets better as it goes, because I like the first one. I love the second one, and I can't wait to see the third. So that's encouraging. Cool.
Yeah. And I would say if you are a horror light watcher, these movies actually fit in well with that because they're not like crazy gory or
they're more psychological thriller than horror, I think.
But they're still scary. They make you jump. There'll be stuff. There's usually supernatural and all of that. I also wanted to say Carly Lane wrote an article. I went and I looked it up. It's on Collider, and I don't know if you've seen this, but you will love it. It is called "Why the Romance at the Heart of the Conjuring Franchise Is Its Best Secret Ingredient."
Oh wow,
amazing! Oh well, I will read that immediately. I agree with this premise. I definitely also agree that the Conjuring series could be kind of horror light, although I will say that it has jump scares, and so and I know that that's something that sometimes, like, I think that they're not super scary, they're more atmospheric, but I do think that there are some people who like the difference between what they can and can't watch is if something is startling and
the chair in the second one was like the moment where I was like, okay, I need to pause. Let me
pause. Well, and that's the thing, I've been waiting to watch this because I want to watch it not like on my phone in the dark while I'm sitting in bed waiting to, it's too early for me to fall asleep.
And
because if I need to leave the light on, I don't want to have to get out of bed to do it.
I watch them in the morning. I'll watch them like 9 o'clock in the morning so that the rest of the day, because I made the mistake of watching something at night, and it wasn't even particularly scary, but my your subconscious sort of like absorbs things, so my dreams were really disturbing. But so I watch like 10 in the morning, get a cup of tea, I'm having breakfast or whatever, and I'll watch whatever it is.
See, I think that's adaptive. We adapt.
I have horrible nightmares often, even when like what I watched right before bed was like Dumbo or something. So I don't bother. I don't know why I said Dumbo. I haven't seen that since I was like 5, but so I don't bother, but I
There are disturbing things in Dumbo. Getting
True.
stolen
Doesn't
away
his mom
from your
murder?
mom is really,
Yeah.
that's traumatizing. There's some traumatizing shit in those early Disney
God.
movies.
Like even like it was the ad, the commercials they ran for the very first Paranormal Activity. Not even the film. I've never seen the films. I can't watch them because the ad disturbed me so much.
Pretty scary. Yeah.
Like seriously, and it's not even like it's just the disturbing, the whole thing of like being asleep and having things move around you and things that like anything that has to do with that, like I can't do.
No.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you guys so much for joining us on another episode of Dear Romance Writer. I am Avery Flynn.
I am Zio Axelrod.
And I'm Roan Parrish.
And we love having you. Please send in your letters. You can go to dearromancewriter.com to send in your letter. Please subscribe. You can watch on YouTube as well. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, and
Tell your
we
lovers.
welcome everyone. Tell your lovers. All right. Thank you guys so much. Have a
See you
great
next time.
rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you so much for subscribing to Dear Romance Writer. Remember to keep sending in those letters at dearromancewriter.com. We can't wait to tell you what to do. Dear Romance Writer is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Find more podcasts you'll love, frolic.media/podcasts.